Welcome to another video. I am the Starman, and this is the first of a series of videos where I'm going to be looking at portable star trackers. I'm going to be taking a very close look at these portable star trackers, which enable you to take long exposures of the night sky, deep space, Milky Way, all that sort of thing, and not have that star trailing that you get when you have your camera on a fixed tripod and you take a picture of the night sky and all the stars trail. These counteract the movement of the Earth, and they help you to take really long exposures of the night sky to get some spectacular photographs of the Milky Way. We're coming into winter now, and that means that we're going to be getting longer nights, and we've also got some brilliant deep space targets coming into view now. We've got Orion is starting to come up now with the Orion Nebula, and we've also got the Andromeda Galaxy is coming. There's all sorts of things that you can photograph in the winter night sky, and using a portable star tracker will help you to do that. And the thing is, you can carry these things around, see. Now there are astronomy mounts, German equatorial mounts, that are quite heavy and they're not easy to transport around. So these portable tracking mounts are great for traveling from your home, which may not be in a dark sky, and you can travel maybe half an hour or an hour away to get to a dark sky and do some imaging where you don't have to have the light pollution. So anyway, I'm going to start by showing you my own tracker, which is this one. This is the Fornax LighTrack II. It's a Hungarian made portable star tracker, and I've had it for a couple of years and it's absolutely brilliant. Now it is one of the more expensive models. The main reason why I bought this one was because it was very similar to the tracker that I had before, which was an astrotrack, and it works in a very similar way, and it's also extremely accurate, and it can take a lot of weight as well, and that was one of the other reasons why I bought it. So I'm going to be showing you all around this now, and I'm going to be showing you as well what I can do with it. So let's take a closer look at the Fornax LighTrack II. Right, okay, so here we are with my very own Fornax LighTrack II. And I will be bringing you some reviews on other trackers, such as the Skywatcher Star Adventurer, the Ioptron Sky Guider, in future videos, so watch out for those. This happens to be my own, so I'm going to have to beg, steal and borrow the other ones to do reviews on those. But anyway, here we go. And this is very similar to the one I had before, the AstroTrack, and the way that it works is that it has an arm. This silver thing here is an arm that swings out either side, depending on what hemisphere you're in. And when the motor starts running, the arm very, very slowly moves across like that, and that's what counteracts the Earth's motion once the tracker is polarized. So let's have a look round it, and what we'll do is we'll have a look at the back first. And on the back we've got the on-off switch. My AstroTrack didn't have an on-off switch, but this one does, so you can turn it on and off. What you can do, what's good about the on-off switch is that you can actually track a Milky Way landscape with the tracker turned on, and then what you can do then is you can do the same landscape, turn the tracker off and capture the foreground, and then you can blend the two together. It takes a bit of work, you know, in post to do that, but that way you can blend the foreground in, and that way you'll have a solid foreground and nicely tracked stars for your photographs. So that's very useful. That's a 12 volt DC, and there's also an auto guide port there, which I don't use, and auto guiding is a little bit more deeper. If you want to get into auto guiding, I suggest you probably you look it up, because it's not something that I do. I don't think that I really need to do it, to be quite honest. Okay. So auto guiding allows for more accurate tracking. What it does is, if your polar alignment isn't perfect, what it does is the auto guider, the software, which is normally, I think, PhD, will normally correct any mistakes or any kind of tracking errors. So that's what the auto guide's for. But anyway, so this is the polar arm, which takes the polar scope, and that's where you put the polar scope through, and you point it towards the North Star, and then you align it with that, and once that's done, the mount is then ready to track the sky. One thing I will say is that if you're using a very long lens or a telescope, your polar alignment is needs to be much more precise. And here I have my quick release plate, which goes straight onto my geared head, which I use to align the mount with the North Star. Okay, so now looking on the front, see we've got a few buttons here, and this one here controls the modes. So the first mode is sidereal, which is the one that you would normally use to track the night sky. And underneath that we have solar. Solar's slightly different. So I never use it. To be quite honest, I never use solar or lunar. The sun moves at a different rate in the sky as the stars, slightly differently, and the moon even more so. But to be quite honest, I've never used any of those modes for anything I've done. And then there's also a half track mode, which other trackers do this. What it does is it tracks so that you get less movement on the stars, but you also still get some movement in the landscape, but it's not quite as bad as what it would be if it was fully tracked. Again, this is another mode that I've never really used. I prefer to just track for the sky and then take a static shot of the foreground if that's what I'm doing, and then I'll put them together in post. It does take a little bit of work, but that's what I prefer to do anyway. Now for this button in the middle. Now all this does is switch the mount between northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. So most of you will be in the northern hemisphere, so what we would do is we'd set the mount up, the arm would swing out this way and it would track that way. But if you're in the southern hemisphere, you'd want to swing the arm out this way and track this way, because the stars in the southern hemisphere go around in a different direction around the pole. They go clockwise around the pole in the southern hemisphere, whereas us up in the northern hemisphere, we watch the stars go anti-clockwise around Polaris. And this one here, we have two buttons here, and these are basically just to set the mount up. One moves the arm this way and the other one moves the arm the other way, so you can set the mount up with these two. And there's also a status light there as well. So that's it really. There is a USB connector there, but I think it's for a firmware update, but I've never used that. So that's pretty much it. That's the tracker itself. Now I'm going to put it on the mount and show you how it works. Okay, so I've now got the mount on my tripod, and you can see that I'm using a geared head. And the reason why I'm using a geared head is because it allows for very accurate movement of the mount, so that you can polar align the mount with the North Star. Now there are wedges that you can get as well. You can also get a wedge for the Fornax, but this is the way I do it. It's just easier for me because I use it for normal photography as well. And I've also got the polar scope on here as well. That's connected to the polar arm. And the only thing I really need to do now is put my ball head on. So if I put the ball head on like this, that just goes on there like that, and then once that's on there, so then you just put your camera on there, and then you can polar align the mount, and then you're good to go. Now the only other thing I haven't mentioned is the power. Now I'm using this, it's called a Tracer 12 volt battery pack, and I'll just show you the box actually. This is the box. It's a Tracer lithium polymer power pack, and it's a 12 volt 8 amp hours. Now I've had this for a couple of years and it's been absolutely brilliant. I've had no problems at all with it. So there you go. So now I'm going to show you how this tracker works. Okay, so as you can see, I've now put a camera on the top there just for good measure. Just another thing about the ball head. When I tighten the ball head, make sure it's very tight, because if it's loose, you don't want when you're moving the camera around, once you're all set up, when you're pointing at different things, you do not want that to come loose and swing loose, otherwise it could be trouble. Now it doesn't matter which way you point the camera, it doesn't matter where you point the camera, up, down, left, right, it will track the night sky. So the first thing I would do is I would set the mount up before I do anything else. So I would arm the mount by swinging the arm out all the way this way. I'm in the northern hemisphere, so the arm comes this way. If you're in the southern hemisphere, you want to be bringing the arm this way to track that way. So now, in fact, once you get to the end, it already starts tracking. It's tracking now. The status LED is blinking, which means that it's tracking. Now the tracking arm does have a time limit. It has you can track for about 2 hours with this particular mount, which might be a limit for some people, not for me. It doesn't bother me that once you get to this side after 2 hours, you then have to reset it again. It does mean that you have to recompose your shot again if that's what you do. That could be an inconvenience, I suppose. So if you're going to be imaging something for a long time, make sure that you arm the mount all the way back here, and that gives you the maximum amount of time to track for. Once you've got the mount armed, you then want to polar align the mount. So you'll point the scope here, the polar scope, towards the North Star. Now, it's not quite as simple as just pointing it straight at the North Star. I'm going to show you now. Okay, so when you look through the polyscope, you'll see a circle in the middle, and you might see a depiction of the night sky inside the polyscope. And the circle in the middle is very important because you need to put Polaris on a point on that circle. You can do it by rotating the polyscope so that it matches the sky, and then you put the Polaris where it should be. There's a little circle inside a circle. But the way that I do it is I use an app. Instead, I use an app to find where I should put the North Star on the circle. I'm not sure if you can see that, but I'll put it on the screen just in case. And you can see by looking at this chart I've got here, if I was polar aligning right now, which I can't obviously because it's during the day, Polaris would need to be at the 1 o'clock position. Now the reason for this is because Polaris makes its own little circle. It's not directly above the pole, it actually makes its own little circle. It's about a degree off, and that's the reason for having to put Polaris in a particular place on the circle. Okay, so now we're polar aligned. We've got the arm all the way out, and now that's it, we're ready to track. So you can take your camera and you can point it wherever you want in the night sky, and it will track the stars. You can take long exposures, just think the Orion Nebula, things like that, the Milky Way. You can take long exposures of the Milky Way. Now, I might have mentioned it before, that if you are using a telescope or a very long focal lens, your polar alignment, which I mentioned just before, will need to be very accurate. You can't just, you know, be close. You have to be very accurate, because if you want to use 2-3 minute exposures, a telephoto lens will show up any kind of inaccuracies in your polar alignment. So, but anyway, I have had no problems using a 300mm lens with this mount. It is very, very accurate. So there you go, that's my little video on how to set up the Fornax LighTrack II, my very own Fornax LighTrack II, and a little review of it at the same time as well. Now look out for other videos where I will be reviewing other sky trackers and pitting them up against this one to see how easy they are to set up, and also to see how well they perform. Trackers like the Skywatcher Star Adventurer, the Ioptron Skyguider Pro, and the Move Shoot Move, provided I can get hold of them, that is. But look out for those. I'm sure I'll be doing some reviews on those trackers in the future. Anyway, so I hope this video has been useful to you, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to leave you with some images that I have taken using this tracker here. And if you like the video, hit the like button, and also hit subscribe to see more videos like this one, and tick the bell for notifications of new videos, and I will see you again next time.